All right, so we're going to move over to the AFC. We got two games from this past weekend, of course. We're going to start with the Ravens and the Texans. So, Texans obviously coming off of that victory against the Browns, where they basically put the Browns over their knee and spanked them in front of their former quarterback, Deshaun Watson, of course. And on the other side, the Ravens, of course, they are coming off of a bye. Second time under Lamar Jackson this has happened. Probably going to be MVP. And he absolutely showed why. This game started off pretty even and definitely looked like there were parts where the Texans could have won early on. But that changed real fast. Second half, the Texans
Yeah.
didn't put a single point on the board in the second half. Ravens put up 24. I mean, this was literally the Lamar game. Like, you can talk about the other team's performance, but this one was all him.
Yeah, this is. I mean, the stat sheet and watching the game, they both immediately speak for Lamar here. I mean, he gets 16 for 22, 152 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns in the air, and then on top of that, 11 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So 4 total touchdowns, 252 yards, split pretty evenly between the air and the ground. I mean, he had an amazing game. He put the whole team on his back. Just destroyed Houston, both from the perspective of being a good passer and a good runner, and a good runner in like a quarterback way. I mean, he would kind of move for a second, and if something wasn't open, gone. It wasn't wasting time. He was sacked 3 times, I think mostly in the first half, but that was just like you could tell the Ravens were kind of getting a feel for things after coming back from the bye. It looked like the Texans might put up somewhat of a fight, but it didn't really happen. They could not hold off the Baltimore ground game. As I said, Lamar had 100 yards himself. And then Justice Hill got 66. Gus Edwards got 40. They let Dalvin Cook come in and get 23 yards on 8 carries. He had one big 19-yard rumble. Otherwise, Cook didn't do a whole lot. But, I mean, they still had a pretty good ground game overall. His connections with Flowers and Bateman were good. Got a touchdown to Likely. Got a playoff touchdown to Nelson Aguilar in 2024. It was not something I would have had on my list at the beginning of the season. But we had one. The Texans just had nothing going on. CJ Stroud couldn't really get it going. I mean, he didn't throw a pick or anything, but he couldn't get that one going very well. Singletary for the ground game could not get going, and in the first half, this was close enough to have the run game trying to get rolling. And Singletary caps off the day at 22 yards, not super amazing. Nico Collins and Stroud had a good connection, but they couldn't really get it going really far. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, they had a good connection. If you're watching the game, there wasn't a whole lot going on there either. A big play here or there, but nothing too major. Their only score comes off of a 67-yard punt return from Steven Sims. That made it look really exciting in the first half, and you're thinking, okay, we're actually going to have a shootout. That red-hot Texans team is going to stay red-hot against this Baltimore team. No. It was 10-10 at halftime, and then from there, it went 17-10, 24-10, 31-10, 34-10, and that was it. The Texans in the second half went punt, turnover on downs in the game. And the Ravens in the second half went touchdown, field goal. That's really all I have to say about this one. There's not a whole lot that went on here except Lamar Jackson took over this game. Him and the rest of the Ravens offense came alive. That defense did not let the Texans move anywhere. When I say they went punt, they had one 9-play drive that only went 32 yards, took up 6 minutes. So slow, moved nowhere, punted. Then they had a 3-and-out that went just 5 yards in a minute. Then they had a 4-and-out that went just 4 yards in a minute. Turn it over on downs there, and that was it. That was it for the Texans. Great season, a great young team. I'm really excited to see what DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud will be doing in the future. This is no hate to them, but this was just not a good game. They just couldn't get anything going, and the Ravens dominated this one. Took a massive win to make sure that the AFC Championship runs through Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens, first half, obviously, they let Lamar get put on his butt a little bit. I'll give DeMeco Ryans again. That's his forte, being a linebacker for the Texans all those years. Obviously, defensive background coming from San Fran, but that's what they were doing in the first half. Like, they were able to get a good bit of pressure. Like, it's not like the Ravens' offense in the first half was all world. And the last time this game really felt like a game was when they got that punt return for a touchdown. I'm like, oh my god, like you absolutely cannot let them do that there. You had a punt return for a touchdown, and then they're driving down the field at the end of the half, pretty much. and maybe they probably weren't gonna get a touchdown there. Okay, maybe not. At least get a field goal. That's like the exact moment where the game to me kind of changed. When they missed the field goal there, and Ravens had another drive at the end of the half where again Lamar was getting put on his butt, 2 sacks in a row. Like I mean, come on, like that's a little bit ridiculous there. Like he lost like 20 yards on 2 sacks in 2 plays, so that one wasn't going anywhere at the end of the half anyway. But that was like the last moment I really felt like the Texans were really in the game. Like their defense for the most part was playing well. Ravens defense was playing well. It was close. And like we just said, second half, like literally every single drive the Ravens had, they scored 3 straight touchdowns. Like it just bam, 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 just like that. Mar took the game over. He said, nope, enough. Basically, like the opposite of that first playoff game that he had. I don't know if like you saw, but he was talking about, CJ Stroud, his first playoff game and everything. He said it was better than his. Definitely was. Like, I think that playoff game made Lamar who he is right now because that was bad against the Chargers. I ain't gonna lie. Like, the man came in halfway through the season for Joe Flacco, led him to the playoffs as a rookie, and people were like booing the fact that he was even stepping on the field by 3 quarters into the game because of how bad he was playing. But the man motivated himself into becoming an MVP the next year. Did the same thing this year. Probably gonna win MVP. We'll have a discussion about who's gonna win this game against the Chiefs, and later in the week because I don't even know anymore. But yeah, this one definitely just showed how good the Ravens team can be. We saw it against the Lions. We saw it against the 49ers. When they get running, when they get rolling, that defense there's just simply not a team in the league that can stop them when they're at their best. And that's again, like you said, not a slight of the Texans, just different levels there. CJ Stroud seems like he's going to have a good career, I would assume, based off of just this year. So, happy for them, but very obvious who the better team was.
All right, and without further ado, we go to our
What's
one
up with that?
loss. The Kansas City Chiefs escaped Buffalo with a 27-24 victory over the Buffalo Bills. This game was a good one. The Bills did lead at halftime. They fought in the second half, but things just started to fall apart. And funnily enough, we kind of talked about this with the Dolphins game. I said, clash of tomfoolery. The Chiefs didn't have much tomfoolery going on. I mean, they had a few things here and there, but the Dolphins had a lot. And then in this one, these two teams come together, and Josh Allen does not turn the ball over for a second straight playoff game. He plays a great game just for his receivers to turn into the prime 2023 Kansas City Chiefs receivers and start dropping every single thing they could possibly drop. This is not just to go to like the B tier receivers on this team, rookie Shakir or Trent Sherfield. This includes Stephon Diggs, who had some drops. This was a fun game though. Regardless of the outcome, this was a good one. The Chiefs are now Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are now 3-0 against Josh Allen and the Bills in the playoffs. It's the opposite in the regular season, just about, which doesn't seem to matter to Patrick Mahomes. Both quarterbacks played a great game. Mahomes went 17 for 23, 215 yards, had 2 touchdowns, no picks. Pretty good day for him. Josh, a little less impressive in the air, but still a pretty great game. 26 for 39, 186 yards, got a touchdown. He also rushed for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. He really had the team on his back in this one. James Cook had it going. Isaiah Pacheco, 97 yards for the Chiefs and a touchdown. He's been a massive part of their season this year. And that has stayed pretty true in these playoff games. He was really good against the Dolphins. He was really good here against the Bills. And the Bills have a pretty, staunch run defense. The Bills and Dolphins both have some pretty key defensive injuries, but they've still played well and they still made it, to where they got to. The Bills, obviously here in the divisional round, despite all that. Dalton Kincaid led the Bills in the air, while Travis Kelce had a vintage Travis Kelce Patrick Mahomes game. 5 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 75 yards. Him and Pat were on one. They had a clear goal, had to get into the AFC Championship again. 6 straight years for this Chiefs team. McCole Hardman had a few fumbles, lost one out of the end zone. There's a chaotic last few seconds of this game, or last few minutes of this game. Tyler Bass, Lord have mercy. I feel bad for him, but he went to kick a game-tying field goal and sent it into a different dimension. It was a really bad miss. I mean, it was off as soon as it was out his foot. The win was definitely not great, but that's got to be a little better than that. But this one is crazy all the way through. Bills strike first, then the Chiefs even it up. Then we get it to be 10-3, then it's 10-6. Then the Chiefs are going to make it 13-10, and then we just start trading from here. At 13-10, then it's 17-13. We go into the halftime 17-13. Bills fans probably a little on the edge, but happy. Immediately, the Chiefs score. And after halftime, it's 2017, then it's 24-20, and then it's 27-24, and that's where it would remain. Once it got there, that's when we started to get into some of the tomfoolery. The Bills turned it over on downs. The Chiefs have that. Let me slow down here. The Bills turn it over on downs because they go for a fake punt where they hand it to Damar Hamlin and try to get him to go for 5 yards because they're at 4th and 5 at their own 30. That unfortunately doesn't happen. I'm not going to get into too much of the Disney movie jokes with the Damar Hamlin choice, but it was probably not the best idea. I think if you want to go for it on 4th down with this Bills team, honestly, just let Josh Allen run. 4th and 5 is probably crazy, but if you're going to go for some sort of trickery or something, I think you got to let Josh have some sort of control here. This ends up they get 2 yards, they get tackled, that's over. But then they get bailed out because in 2 plays, Mecole Hardman looks like he's about to put the Bills to bed, and then he fumbles out of the end zone in a crazy turn of events. We get back to the Bills, and they go 3-and-out pretty quickly. They had an incomplete pass to Trent Sherfield, which is we texted about this during the game. At first, when they said incomplete, I was like, no way, he caught that. Then they did the replay, and I'm like, oh, that's you could see pretty clearly that he didn't catch it with a different angle and a bit of a slower play. And now I'm thinking, yeah, it's definitely over. But then the Chiefs go 5-and-out. I mean, they only get 8 yards up the field. A pretty good defensive stand for the Bills on that drive. And I'm thinking, yeah, the Bills might actually have a chance to at least tie it. I mean, that's all you need to do is tie it. But there's a good shot that they could try to get down and do something. There's plenty of time left. And that's something that the Bills have been doing all night. I mean, the Chiefs were surgical, right? Every drive they have, quick, just a few minutes, 3-4 minutes, they score a touchdown. The Bills, on the other hand, were taking up 7 minutes per drive, pretty much. 7 minutes, touchdown. 8 minutes, touchdown. I mean, they were making sure that they killed as much time as they could. That's what was happening here. They were clearly trying to be sure that whatever they did not give Patrick Mahomes that much time in regulation. And so they take up 7 minutes here, end up stalling out towards the end of the drive on some drops from Stephon Diggs on this drive, and then it gets to we're about 1 minute and 40 left. It looks like we're just going to settle for the field goal. There's still a lot of time, of course, left for the Chiefs. It's probably still a scary scenario anyway for the Bills to have Tyler kicking for a tie with 1.5 minutes left, considering how things are going in the past, and the fact that again the Chiefs every drive that they scored on was quick. It was they did what they had to do, got straight to the end zone. Unfortunately, Tyler Bass from 44 yards out, which I personally believe as a NFL kicker, you got to hit that. It's wide right. It's out of the way immediately. It's gonna hurt for Bills fans, for the Bills players, for Tyler Bass especially. You finally get Mahomes to come in on come into your house on the playoffs, and it doesn't go well. It ends in tragedy. I mean, one of the worst ways it could have ended, and it just kind of falls apart at the end. It's
That's
not
one
good.
way to call it.
So I mean, this one's got to be rough for Bills fans. The Chiefs will advance to their 6th straight AFC Championship to play the Ravens team, and Terrence alluded to this, a few minutes ago. It's going to be interesting to pick that one because it's clearly hard to pick against this Chiefs team, despite all odds. And I don't mean this in like they have some sort of black magic going on, but they play well. They lock in during the playoffs. They have been a resilient team, and that's what that really held them into this one. The regular season Chiefs that we saw were not the same team as this playoff Chiefs team, and I would say fully confidently that if this was the regular season Chiefs from this year, they lose this game. There's no way that they stay in a fight against the Bills, especially the way the Bills have been playing towards the end of the season and on. But the Chiefs have been a much better team in the playoffs. They've kept together. They've tried to not be too involved with so much tomfoolery. I mean, we had some plays in the Dolphins where Mecole Hardman didn't go for or just kind of gave up on the pass, hoping that he would get the foul. He obviously had the fumble on this one, but he also had some pretty good plays. He had a really hard catch that he got. This was a Showtime playoff game. This was good play from both quarterbacks. It's unfortunate for the Josh Allen legacy, what people will say about him. He was not the problem in this game. I would say not. Him and James Cook both played a pretty good game. But yeah, the Chiefs played a better game. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, vintage connection, back on at full strength. And they take this one 27-24 with a shirtless Jason Kelce screaming from the box.
I think the most obvious reason why the Bills lost, of course, the kicking, missing a field goal wide right, shades of the Super Bowl against the Giants, which was one of four. Obviously, the fourth down attempt with DeMar Hamlin. I think they were pointing out on the broadcast, Tony and Jim. They were saying like, "Hey, I think the Chiefs had 10 people on the field. That's why they switched to that in formation and decided to do it there. Like
Yeah.
they didn't. That wasn't something that I would hope that wasn't something they planned. Because like if they plan that, somebody got to be fired because that's just stupid. And even with the element of surprise, like it's just too much of a gamble. The Chiefs literally just scored a touchdown on the last drive. They scored 2 straight touchdowns to start the second half. Like you cannot do that. There's just no reasonable way you can do that. You have to as you can talk about the Chiefs this season, right? Because let's be honest, this was probably one of the absolute best games they played all year, and it's not even close. So you can talk about how the Chiefs have played this year. They were like 8-1 at one point, but that didn't really matter once you saw how they played in this game, especially to start the second half. 2 straight touchdowns, a touchdown on just that last drive. There's no way you can come out and decide to do that. Okay. So that's just dumb. So I'm assuming it's because they didn't have enough people on defense on the return team. So they said, hey, let's just try to catch them here. Because that's your own 30. You're at least guaranteeing that you're going to get a touchdown there, or at least a field goal, I should say. Like I'm sorry, like that's just stupid. So that's number 2. The Diggs catch or non-catch there, that's a big part too. Like that would have given them obviously way better field position on that drive. Like that's rough, especially for a guy of his caliber. And we've talked about it. Sports media as a whole has talked about the struggles with Stephon Diggs over the past how many ever games, 8, 9 games now. We know that it's well documented. That's just another one of it. But flip side, on that last drive for the Bills, you had a check down to Stephon Diggs coming across the middle. I think it was at 2nd and 9. When he was trying to get to Shakir in the end zone, I understand why he threw it. When I saw Diggs coming across, I'm like, okay, he's going to obviously just throw it to Diggs real quick. Boom. And they're going to keep bleeding that clock, which is what they should have been doing. Didn't happen. So there's multiple things there that you can bring up, to say, like, hey, this is why they lost. But ultimately, like, they got away from what they were doing in the first half. Like, they just wouldn't. First half, like, really, they were just going up and down the field, up and down the field. Like you said, slowly. Like the Chiefs' drives were much faster. But I mean, that's just more of the Chiefs' game, when they are on at their best. But they were able to run the ball really. Like Josh Allen, when you actually look at it, not to like just box score watch, stat watch, but like Josh Allen had less than 200 yards passing. Mahomes had 215, but like it's not like Josh was throwing all over the field. And a lot of it was really short game stuff, like it wasn't 20, 30 yards down the field every time he got in a completion, right? Like a lot of it was short game. A lot of it was him running the ball. So I'm not going to sit here and act like, they were just throwing the ball over the field and then they didn't do that in the second half. They were running the ball pretty well. James Cook, for the most part, it didn't seem like they could really stop him. Josh Allen, they didn't have Willie Gay out there. Like that was obviously a problem because he was supposed to be the spy. He wasn't there. And obviously they didn't have somebody to take that over. Or if they were, it wasn't happening because good and well Josh Allen is going to run. Like Josh Allen's a running quarterback. Like let's not get this mistaken here. Like he is absolutely a running quarterback. Now he can throw the ball over the field too, but the man will run. We all know that. We can watch the games. We can see that. I know the players that do film study every week know that too. So he was running the ball. They couldn't stop him. James Cook was running the ball. They couldn't stop him either. And their drives, they were in the first couple of drives, they were ending in field goals while the Bills were getting touchdowns. At the end of it, 17-13 first half. That's the way it ends. Chiefs in the second half, now they're getting touchdowns. Now they're ending their drives, taking it all the way down the field. Unlike the Bills, who now you look at their last 3 drives, turnover on downs on that punt, fake punt, a punt. They basically get nothing on a really key drive. Early fourth quarter, the game's not over, but going 3 and out like that, like it was like, dang, like it just shifted right there. I felt like, and even though the Chiefs didn't do anything on the next one, like not doing anything on that drive to capitalize off of the fact that McCole Hardman fumbled out of the back of the end zone, like that. That's where I kind of felt like things changed just a little bit, because now it's like you could have gone down, you could have scored, gotten the lead back. They never got the lead again after they got that second touchdown before the fake punt. Like that's just unacceptable, especially with how much time they had in the game. Like it was very early in the fourth quarter when they scored that. Like you could have easily, like that's just what's frustrating for me. I didn't have to get away from their game plan. And again, the Chiefs obviously played better in the second half, but yeah, and it's not because I picked the Bills, but it's just frustrating to see like how do you play that well and you come out second half, you do the things you do. It's just I don't really know what to really say about the Bills anymore. I thought this would really be the year where I didn't say they're gonna win a Super Bowl, but like this was at least against the Chiefs. Like this was gonna be the year that they figure it out. They beat Mahomes, advanced to the AFC Championship game for the first time. Since that game against the Chiefs back in like 2020, 2021. And outside of that, the only ones they really had since the 90s. Like I thought this would be the year, but there's a lot more than just a missed field goal. Let's be honest. But maybe it's just something about the Chiefs that they just can't really overcome. And I think for the Chiefs, we talked about the Ravens and their struggles in the first half. Like it's not like the Chiefs played poorly. Like they scored, every drive, but they obviously weren't the better team in the first half. They were clearly the better team in the second half, even despite the mistake there with the fumble from McCole Hardman. My thing is this: like, are the Chiefs receivers, are the Chiefs as a whole going to play as good of a game against the Ravens as they did against the Bills? I don't know, because this is probably absolutely top 3 game for the Chiefs this year. Like, not even a question. Are they going to be able to replicate that? I always say I don't like to bet against Mahomes. I picked against him in this one. I was wrong, but it's going to be hard to say. And that's why we're going to keep the picks till next week, or till the end of the week, I should say. So, yeah, definitely frustrating for the Bills. But once again, Chiefs, they somehow keep getting away with it. They keep winning. They move on.